Chronicles. I'm Kaylee, your host, and today's episode is brought to you by my fresh mental breakdown. I wish I could be like, just kidding, but it's actually been a really hard week for me. I am returning back to work from maternity leave. I thought I would do an episode reflecting on maternity leave and postpartum. I've been on maternity leave for 16 weeks, which is a blessing because of where I live. Not everybody gets that long to take off. I know if I didn't live in the state that I live in, I would only get 12 weeks paid off. When I was working for the last company I worked for, I only would have gotten paid 6 weeks off with 65% of my pay, which is crazy when you think about it. Who can survive off 65% of their income? Especially if imagine being like a single mom, you're pregnant and you have to take leave to care for your baby and you only get 6 weeks off. On top of that, you don't even get a full paycheck. In that circumstance, you probably are going to end up having to go to work a lot sooner to be able to provide for your family. So I fully understand. I am so blessed to have had 16 weeks off. However, that doesn't make the transition back to work any easier. This is my last baby. For those of you who don't know, I have 4 kids. My oldest is 11. I have a 5-year-old, a 1.5, almost 2-year-old, and then my sweet baby Emberly was just born November of 2024. I think in a lot of ways, this maternity leave and this transition feels different because it's my last baby and this is my last maternity leave, the last time I'm going to be essentially transitioning back to work after having a baby. And you guys, I am unwell. I have been freaking out mentally, crying, having so much anxiety for the last 4 days straight, at least. I have dealt with postpartum anxiety in every single one of my pregnancies or postpartum periods. I didn't really recognize what postpartum anxiety was until my second baby. I think that's because I became a little more educated on postpartum and my own feelings after my first. Before I had my second baby, I had gone to therapy. I was doing some work on myself and my own mental health. I think it made me more aware of what was happening to me once I had her. I remember with my first baby, the very first time I left him, it stood out to me because I felt like, oh my gosh, this crazy thing happened to me that I had never experienced. I was registering for college. I went to the college campus because at that time you couldn't do a lot of stuff online, not to like date myself, but that was 11 years ago. So 11 years ago, I'm at the college campus trying to get registered for school. I left my son at home with my mom. So I knew he was safe. He was cared for, all of that. I was fine with it. I think he was like 3 months old. So this is one of the first times I had been any sort of distance away from my very first baby. When I was at the campus, I noticed that I started feeling like really anxious. But at the time, I didn't realize it was anxiety. I noticed the symptoms, like my palms were sweaty, like knees weak, mom's spaghetti on my sweater already. No, I'm just kidding. But really, my palms were sweating and I felt like everyone was staring at me. Everyone was like, what is she doing here? Who does she think she is? I was having completely irrational thoughts about what everyone else around me was thinking. Like they had all known I left my baby. And my logical mind was like, nobody knows shit. This is crazy. For some reason, I was still feeling that way. That moment in time, looking back, I was definitely having like postpartum anxiety. And there was a lot of other instances where that happened to me as well. So with my second, I saw the symptoms right away when it was happening. And I remember having the same feelings of like, there's a weight on my chest. I'm just standing in my kitchen and my palms are sweaty. Like my heart is racing. I was literally in that fight or flight physically for no reason. So at that time, I could reach out to my doctor and talk to her, like, is there such thing as postpartum anxiety? Because I had heard about postpartum depression, and she said, oh yeah, 100%. And that was the first time that I realized that, okay, there's postpartum anxiety as well. So it's no surprise that I experienced that with my third baby and now my fourth baby, unfortunately. I feel like doing this reflection is important because I have been flooded with emotions. It's been really difficult for me to sort through my thoughts because some are louder than others. My hope is that I may be able to encourage any other moms or parents in the same stage of life to maybe step back and reflect, or at least feel seen in some of the things that you may be experiencing. So looking back on the earlier days, adjusting to motherhood again, this time the first few weeks in some ways were so much easier than the last 3 pregnancies and postpartum times that I've had. Some of the struggles that I faced in my first 2 pregnancies were I did not have the support of a partner during the pregnancy or the labor and delivery or immediately right after. I did have family, so not to discredit anybody who really helped me out during those times, but I didn't have a partner in the way that I do now with Seth. And with my last pregnancy and postpartum, he was a huge support, especially being here right from the beginning and through all of it. Of course, I was able to count on him again. Those earlier days were a lot better with Emberly because we had already been through it. We kind of knew what to expect, especially with each other. We weren't like relearning how we were going to navigate. With Issa, I had I guess I would say terrible delivery. It was really hard. A lot of things happened that caused me injury. I labored for a long time, and my recovery afterwards was unlike any other recovery I've had. Let's say that. It took me almost 2 full weeks with Emberly. My delivery was so much quicker. I think by having that faster delivery and a shorter amount of time laboring, it did wonders for my body. After leaving the hospital, initially I was expecting to maybe feel the way I felt with Isabella, and it was going to be a really rough 2 weeks, but I did not have that. This time, it felt like a miracle actually, because I felt really good. A little sore, but I could get up and I could walk around and I could take care of myself. In the previous postpartum time, in those first early weeks, I felt like a zombie. I was half alive. So overall, I feel really fortunate that those really early days weren't physically taxing on me. I did experience what some would call the baby blues for like the first 2 weeks. Emotionally, I felt erratic. I mean, there was a lot of crying. There was a lot of like, if something wasn't going the way I wanted it to, or I had in my head, it was very doom and gloom. There were moments where I felt really defeated, and then other moments where I'm like, wow, I was a little crazy just then. And that was to be expected. I felt baby blues about 2 weeks in, or 2 weeks postpartum with each of my babies. So again, reflecting back, like this being my 4th baby, I think I really knew what to expect having the previous 3. Again, I was exhausted. There were a lot of things that I wasn't expecting to come up that did come up this time. One of them being like experiencing that postpartum anxiety. I did not want Emberly to be out of the room. Something that was like a pain point for Seth and I was he was trying to figure out a way he could help me and support me and help me get rest, especially because I have been exclusively breastfeeding. So he would suggest, taking the baby during the evenings or at night, hanging out with her in the living room and letting me go in the bedroom to get rest and go to sleep. And I was finding that I could not sleep if the baby was in the other room. It made me feel uneasy. It made me feel like all of those same anxiety symptoms of just like wanting my baby to be back in the same room as me. And I was having a really hard time trying to communicate that to Seth because logically I felt crazy, but reflecting back, it makes sense as a mother that, you just grew this baby from scratch. She was in my belly for all of those months. She had been with me that whole time. It was almost an unnatural feeling to have her be that far away from me, even though she was in the same house and it was just the living room. But in those early days, I felt like I needed my baby to be closer to me. It was just like too far away for her to be in the living room. Seth and I kind of argued a little bit on that point because he wasn't understanding where I was coming from and I wasn't communicating it very well. The exhaustion, lack of sleep, and everything else played into that. We eventually were able to sit down and just have like a really raw conversation with each other. And that helped so incredibly much because we both were able to finally like just get on the same page and he could understand where I was coming from. And I feel like it made our relationship stronger to go through that as well. Also, thinking back to those early days, the meal train was a savior. Somebody from Seth's work created a meal train for us, coworkers, my family, friends, just a lot of great people signed up to bring us meals right after having the baby. It was such a stress relief. And the way we had it set up was every other day. That way, if we had leftovers, they didn't like overfill our fridge. We were able to just like eat leftovers the next day or order takeout. We got a couple like DoorDash gift cards as well. I wish I had done that every time. Like, where was that 11 years ago when I had my first baby? So if you are going to have a baby or you know someone about to have a baby, sign up for it online. I bet you could just Google it, like mealtrain.com. It's amazing. It's automated. You get email reminders. Do that. Something that surprised me the most, I would say, about this postpartum period was having to reset my expectations. Initially, I had thought that we were going to be sending our older two girls to daycare while I was on maternity leave. The whole time, I was expecting, the girls were going to go to daycare, the older girls. I was going to get to be at home and just spend that one-on-one time bonding with Ember. And it was going to be like sunshine and rainbows and lovely. And I was going to get to do all those influencer mom things with my newborn. And it ended up not working out like that. A couple weeks after having Ember, we had to make a decision to keep the older two girls home from daycare. That kind of rocked my world. Like, I was not anticipating it. It felt like the end of the world in the moment because it takes so much more energy and work to have my toddler home. I had to go through like a huge mental shift of reminding myself like this could really actually be a great opportunity instead of getting so upset about all the extra work. I had to really reframe my thoughts about how this was a great time for us to spend together and do things that we wouldn't otherwise get to do while I'm working. Like, we did story time at the library and we got to go out and do toddler activities and play dates and things that like normal stay-at-home moms get to do that as a working mom, you just kind of miss out on. So that was like a huge shift for me that I really had to work through as well mentally. Maternity leave can be an emotional roller coaster. Thinking back, the best part of maternity leave would be definitely bonding with my baby, like the whole purpose of a maternity leave. One of the best feelings about maternity leave and caring for your baby, for me anyway, is when your baby's up all night long. I do not feel as stressed out about getting sleep or being up in those wee hours of the night or early morning because I know that tomorrow I don't have to clock in and work. Tomorrow I can sleep. And half the time I never got to go to sleep. Let me just insert that because I do have a whole other family I have to take care of. But it was nice. It brought me peace knowing that, hey, if we have a rough night tonight, I can sleep tomorrow. Like, I don't have anything that is so pressing that I can't get rest tomorrow. And that really kept me alive at night. If you're having a hard time at night, maybe you can think about that. There ain't shit to do tomorrow. It's going to be okay. I can be up till 3 o'clock in the morning because I don't have shit to do. The hardest part about maternity leave definitely was Isabella, my toddler. I love that girl. Don't get me wrong, but she is in a phase. She is in that toddler phase. She is just so particular. She is a drama. You know, she just got a new baby sister, and that's a transition for her. I do give her some grace for that, but this girl is screaming. She be screaming, yelling, crying, wailing about the most crazy inconveniences. I mean, if our dogs walk in her way, she acts like it's the end of the world right now. So I think dealing with the toddler temper tantrums and big emotion was definitely the hardest part of the maternity leave. But I will say it was rewarding because we decided to do story time once a week with some of our friends. That became something that Isabella really looked forward to. And I kid you not, she would talk about it all week long. And we would go to the library for story time. It was 1 hour long. We do half hour of stories and a half hour of like free play. That kept her alive for like a week. Every time dad would come home, that's the first thing she would tell him. And then anytime my mom called, she would tell her about story time. Anytime she had any opportunity to talk to someone, she would bring up story time. There was 1 week where we all had been sick. We were just starting to feel a little bit better, and we had missed story time the week before. And then that following week, honestly, I wasn't feeling it. I didn't want to go. I was exhausted and really had to pull myself up by the bootstraps to take her to story time. She was so happy. It made me feel so good to like push through that for her. In any other scenario, we would not have had that opportunity to spend that time together. And I know I teased in the first episode about the Target story. That also happened. I am still shook. So we went to Target to kill some time because my older daughter does preschool like Monday through Wednesday. And so after we had taken her to preschool, we decided to kill some time at Target, wait for her to get out of preschool. Issa was in the shopping cart in the front, and then I had Emberly in her infant carrier inside the basket of the shopping cart. And we had been trolling around Target, looking at stuff, having a great time. And then I could tell Issa was like, she was getting over it. So I tried to give her my phone, put some Bluey on just to keep her entertained while we wrapped up our shopping. My exact thoughts were, we're going to wrap this up, take everybody out to the car, get them all ready. We'll head over to preschool. I'll nurse the baby in the car and we'll chill while we wait for my daughter to get out of preschool. So we're in the last aisle. All of the sudden, Issa is like looking back at Ember, and then she just starts vomiting on Ember in the car seat. I immediately am like, no, stop. And so I try to redirect her, to the front, and she starts just throwing up everywhere. She's like throwing up on herself all over the Target floor. She threw up on her stuff that we were going to buy in the car, and she threw up on her infant sister. And I'm just standing there like, oh my God. First of all, she was not even sick. I don't know why she threw up. Like she literally threw up randomly. It was everywhere. And then there's like 3 guys, and they're looking at what's happening and they're shook. I literally had to say to them, can somebody help me? And they were like scrambling. They were like, yeah, they're coming over. They're trying to help me. They're like wiping up the floor. I mean, it's on my shoes, guys. And I'm like, I need to get out of here. Like, we have to go. I cannot be in here anymore. And people are like walking by, looking at me, and I feel so embarrassed. But I'm also like, what do I do with all this stuff that has barf on it? Like, I guess I have to buy it. It's like, I don't really want to buy it anymore, but I feel like I should because my daughter barfed on it. But like, who wants to buy things that had been barfed on? So that sucked. And then I'm like, okay, can somebody like help me get to the checkout? Because I'm like, everything is covered in barf. I made the mistake of pulling Issa out of the cart because I didn't want her to continue to like throw up on the stuff that was in the cart or her sister. And so now I'm carrying her with one arm. I'm trying to like buy the stuff And there was this lady behind me and she's so sweet. She was like, can I help you? Like, can I help you with anything? And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, it's okay. And she's like, I've been there. Like, let me know if you need me. And she went to like self-checkout, bought her stuff, whatever. And then I'm still trying to like check out. And it was just like a whole ordeal. And then a line starts forming and I feel like everybody's watching. And I'm like holding Isabella in one arm, covered in barf. There's barf on my baby. And then Emberly wakes up and we're still trying to get out of Target. It was just one of those mom moments where it's like, can it get any worse? And I will say, thank God, this lady, she came back and she's like, can I help you? And I'm like, okay, yes, I need help. She walked out with me to the car and she told me, she goes, I totally get it. I've been there. I have an autistic son and there's so many times I'm at the grocery store, crazy things happen to me. And I'm like, dang, I wish somebody would just help me. Like I need help. And so not trying to get emotional, but like in that moment, I was so grateful for her. Once we got to the car, of course, Ember's still mad. I had to get Issa undressed in the trunk, do the whole thing. At this point, it's about time to get my daughter from preschool. And so we go to the preschool. I pull Ember out of the car seat to nurse her. And I kid you not, she is covered in shit. She just totally had a blowout in her car seat. I got Issa crying. She's half naked because she just threw up everywhere in Target. Now Ember's crying and she's covered in poop. And the car seat also covered in poop. That really like sums up motherhood. Like when it rains, it pours. And when someone barfs, someone shits, and someone is crying always. Motherhood is emotional in general. I think all around, like there's always extreme highs, extreme lows, and everything in between. I definitely felt a lot of pressure to soak it all in, especially because this is my last baby and I felt everything was like the final moment. And even sitting here now thinking about it, like I feel like I missed opportunities to take more pictures, almost like it's too late. And I know it's not too late and that's a little irrational, but I feel like, I missed that. There were more opportunities for me to have like documented those early moments of her just being a little tiny baby and feeling so guilty. I got distracted with chores or making lunches and dinners and cleaning and cooking and everything else that like is normal to do in a day. Like I feel almost guilty. Like that took away from like those moments that I could have had with Emberly, even though I know like logically, like it's not over. She's still a baby. She's still so sweet and so little. And I can still be documenting and taking pictures and like creating memories right now. I mean, I do feel guilty like about not soaking it in more. I also have like the mom guilt of not spending more time with my other kids. Everything has been so focused on the baby and having the baby, and the baby has a lot of like immediate needs. My older kids are more independent. There are definitely times where I feel like I miss them, even though I'm with them every day. Like I miss hanging out with them. I miss that one-on-one time. Like I wish we had more time or more energy to connect right now. So I think going forward, that's something that I want to prioritize more as well, like making a conscious effort to spend time with them. Thinking about how my identity might have shifted during this time. I definitely think I feel more comfortable in my skin as a mother. I used to feel frustrated that like being a mom was my only characteristic. It kind of bothered me like early on in motherhood. And I think this is because I was a young mom. It seemed like that's all people knew about me. Like if they were to describe me, they're like, oh, she's a mom, or oh, she has a son. I almost desperately just wanted to be something other than a mom. I'm more than a mom, I think was the ideas that I had. Like I'm more than a mom. I have found way more value in like just being a mom. And I think some of that has come from like social media and seeing other moms like just just be moms. And like, it's been really nice and rewarding to see other people like be able to like say, hey, yeah, I'm a mom. And that's what I do. Like 90% of the day, I am just a mom, but I'm also funny. I also have skills. I also have side jobs, passions, and hobbies. And I do all of that while being a mom. And I'm so much more. And I think being able to see a lot more of that on like social media has really helped me embrace like just being a mom. Like, I love being a mom. I've always loved being a mom. If people just know me as a mom at this point in my life, I'm like, fuck yeah, bro. I'm a mom and I'm a damn good one. Some unexpected emotions that kind of surfaced near the end of leave for me was excitement for the new chapters in my life, especially like around starting my podcast and growing my event planning business. Pregnancy has been so draining on me that it has taken a lot of that drive, especially because I've had two babies like really close together. I feel like I've either been pregnant, breastfeeding, pregnant, again, breastfeeding. When I had my last baby, like I knew that we wanted to have another one. There was like this anticipation of like, I can't really start my life yet until we have our last baby. And now that we've had her, it does feel really exciting, like to start this new chapter of my life. And I'm really looking forward to not like feeling like a piece of shit. Pregnancy is not kind to me. So that is really exciting for me. I always knew that I was going to have to go back to work. The feeling around that has definitely been dread. I don't really like resonate with people trying to give me positive outlooks because every like quote good reason for going back to work feels subpar to spending time with Emberly and even Issa and Maya. I've always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and that's kind of what I saw for my life when I was growing up. And people are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, a mom. That was kind of like my plan A. I like to say I'm working plan B because being a stay-at-home mom doesn't really align with the goals that we have for our family or, you know, the economy. And the fact that like, even if I was a stay-at-home mom, I still think I would be doing a lot of things that I'm doing right now, like this podcast or social media or trying to like find passion. And I would still be working towards that, or I'd be working on my house. Like I really do have like a drive to do things. And so if I wasn't working like a 9-to-5 job, I really do believe that I would still be trying to build a career, even if I was a stay-at-home mom. My perspective, I think, has shifted a little bit. My idea right now is like, if I have to work, knowing this is my last baby, it makes me feel more inspired to really start like working towards my career goals and finding something that really brings me a sense of purpose, because my 9-to-5 job right now, I don't really feel that. One fear that I have around going back to work is pumping. Pumping has been a huge pain point for me. It's more like a fear of not being able to keep up my milk supply. The last time with Isabella, we ended up having to supplement some formula like towards the end of my breastfeeding journey for daycare bottles because I was having a hard time keeping up my supply. So one thing I'm trying to change is really trying to put more of a focus on pumping and staying hydrated. Right now, I think if I can keep making enough milk for like the next day, I'm going to feel so much better. So I'm trying to also give myself grace. I don't know why it's so hard. And trust me, like fed is best. And I have nothing against formula. I really try so hard to like just breastfeed my babies. I put all this pressure on myself to make sure that like I can meet all of the demands. Something that I'm working on this time around is really trying to give myself more grace around that. I know that my baby's going to be fed and taken care of no matter what. If we get to a point where we have to supplement, it's going to be okay. It was okay for her sister and her sister before that. Even Andre had formula at some point. So it's like, it's going to be fine. And I'm saying that more for myself. It's going to be fine. I would also like to shout out all of the exclusively pumping moms out there because that shit is hard work. Something I told myself at the beginning of my maternity leave was that it is going to be okay. After all, you just did this with Issa and it was fine. To be honest, that didn't change how I felt, unfortunately. I still felt the impending doom of sending my baby to daycare, that the special time with her is over. One thing that I wish every new mom knew about postpartum is that the emotions come in waves. They last a lot longer than you would expect. And sometimes it's not always easy to give yourself grace. It reminds me of like a phrase I heard the other day. The answer is simple, but it's not easy. I feel like that applies to postpartum because the answer is like, give yourself grace, but it's not easy, especially as a new mom. You don't know what to expect in all of the timelines and how short it is and how long it feels. And everything is so new. Like you don't know how long each phase is going to last until it's over. And as a new mom, sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you feel like, wow, I can't live my life like this forever. I can't continue to wake up every hour and a half, 2 hours, and it really will take a toll on you. And then when you look back in hindsight, you realize that it was really only like a short amount of time, 6, 8 weeks, couple months. Like it was only a short amount of time that you really had to deal with that. And before you know it, it's over. A boundary or like self-care habit that I'm going to be bringing into my next season of life is I'm going to start trying to use the Mel Robbins let them theory. I was listening to her talk about that the other day where you just like take your power back, and you can use this in a lot of situations, and you say let them and then let me. I think this could really be applied in so many areas like coworkers, friends, family, anything that could potentially like trigger anxiety. For example, I could apply this to, let's say, the dishes. When the dishes are a mess and dirty in the sink, I can just be like, you know what? Let them be dirty in the sink and let me take back my frame of mind and relax. This can be applied in so many different ways, but I really want to start doing this is like talking to myself and setting mental boundaries, like let them make a mess, let them not clean up after themselves, and let me prioritize XYZ or however I can use it in that moment. That's a habit that I want to start using. And if you haven't heard Mel Robbins, listen to her. She's amazing. And a word of encouragement for any moms in the thick of it. If you are in the thick of it right now, or you will be soon, save this episode and come back and do your own reflection. But the advice I would give you is this next chapter will be just as beautiful, and it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to bounce back. You don't have to be in high spirits right now. And if you cry in the car for the next week on your way to work, so did I. And I know I'm not the only one. Something that I did to help prepare for the transition back the night before my first day back to work, I made sure that I had clean sheets on the bed and a fresh shower. And I told myself, whatever is not done is going to be okay. Chores, cleaning, whatever it is, my anxiety manifests in busy work and cleaning and feeling like I have to check off every single box in my life in order to relax. I made a point to say like, you know what, after dinner, let it be what it is. Let me relax and let me set the tone to transition into this next chapter of my life. Something that I am really looking forward to in this next season. And by season, I mean going into warmer weather, backyard barbecues with my mom friends. I think when I first had kids, I always pictured having a yard full of kids running around and all the adults are chatting it up and having a good time. That's something that I really look forward to. And I feel really blessed to have an awesome community and a close group of friends that love to also backyard barbecue. So many of my friends now are having kids or have younger kids that we get to experience that part of life together. And it's honestly so rewarding. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and going through this phase of life with me. I have a couple fun episodes planned. Birthday chaos in honor of my upcoming birthday and my take on actual self-care. Also, I'll be having a couple of my besties on for some unfiltered banter. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. I will be posting some Q&A prompts for you guys to let me know what topics you might like to see in future episodes. And as always, please subscribe and feel free to DM me your crazy stories. Okay, bye.